Hey everybody, I'm back. Um, just wrapped up my new comic book review of the, Fantastic Four: Heroes Are Born, written by Jim Lee, which is up on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. As well as wrapped up the final season of Batman: Brave and the Bold, and gave my thoughts on that. So now, I can finally move on to a new comic and a new TV series to review. So now I'm just gonna hop in and play a little while with the next episode of Ace Attorney. So it's gonna be Turnabout Reminiscence. So here we go. Kay Faraday, the young lady who calls herself the second Yatakarasu. The piece of cloth that she conjured up has taken me back to many years ago. Seven years earlier. Why can't we just stay in the present? What's all this constant previously on Ace Attorney? We finally get to see the freaking courtroom now. Jeez. Yeah, that's right. I did it. I killed the guy. But it was the great thief Yatakarasu that told me to do it. Objection. I asked the defendant, just what exactly are you trying to say? Don't you get it? I know the true identity of Yatakarasu. The Yatakarasu is the man standing over there at the prosecutor's bench. Are you saying that I'm the Yatakarasu? Don't you dare deny it. You told me to kill him when you snuck into the embassy. Are you claiming that Mr. Faraday is the Yatakarasu? Mr. Rupp, I think we've heard just about enough out of you. Your Honor, please listen to me. I'm telling the truth. You gotta believe me. Same judge all the time. In accordance with the defendant's pleas, a new prosecutor shall be called to replace Mr. Faraday. This court will be in recess until the new prosecutor is ready. September 10th, 3:20 p.m., District Court, 3rd floor lobby. Definitely a new look for the lobby area of a courtroom. Usually it's like, doors to the courtroom is facing like straight ahead. And there's no window. It's almost time for me to enter the courtroom. That was a new outfit he's wearing. And so is that my first assignment as a prosecutor will be as a replacement for a prosecutor who has been accused by the defendant. Edgeworth. Sir. Have you read over all the documents regarding this trial? Yes, sir. I've memorized everything there is to know. Very good. The paperwork for the prosecutor's substitution is just about complete. Edgeworth, always bear in mind that as your mentor, I, Manfred von Karma, will accept nothing short of perfection. I understand, sir. To have the chance to stand in court at such an early stage in my career, I am honored and proud. As I have watched over your studies, I am giving you this very rare chance. Prove yourself. Thrust the defendant's pathetic lies into oblivion. Yes, sir. Dick. That such a legendary prosecutor will be watching and judging my performance. I have to be perfect in every way. Aren't these great? Daddy made all of these. Awesome, but didn't you get fired right after you made them? Yeah, I did. I spent the same amount of money on this model as it cost to build the real thing. And my boss wasn't very happy with me. Hey Daddy, didn't you say you built a secret mechanism inside of it? I'll tell you about it someday when you're older. A secret mechanism? Maybe he's installed it as a payback for getting fired. It could be trouble. Now I'm curious. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, madam. But is something the matter? I just thought someone would have brought hors d'oeuvres by now. But this is a courthouse. It would be quite atypical to provide hors d'oeuvres here. Are you sure? Someone poured me a fresh cup of coffee last time I was here. What the heck does she think a courthouse is for? This is so good. Glug, 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 glug. I could drink a whole gallon. I've never heard of water that tastes that good. Maybe I'll give him a minute. Glug, 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 glug. Glug, 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 glug. Does he plan on gulping an entire reservoir dry? The trial will resume shortly. Please wait a minute. Wait a moment, sir. I was already well aware of that. Shortly or in a moment. Which one is it? Be Pacific. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. You've got a good eye if you can tell that I'm a prosecutor with just one glance. As there are always only prosecutors and defense attorneys in this lobby, I usually hit the mark if I guess one or the other while there is a recess. You were only guessing? Bookshelf, huh? Compendium of Laws for Beginners. I don't have time to read this and second guess myself now. This should lead to the defendant's lobbies. Ezra, where is your composure? If you wish to take a look at your enemy, do so in a courtroom as you crush him. Indeed, thank you. You are a man of wisdom and experience, sir. The model of the courthouse. It's pretty well constructed. Hands and a face. Don't tell me this thing transforms. Yet I wonder for what other purpose could they have been made. Today's trial should have ended in just 1 minute. Because the defendant was picked up by the security camera, correct? Exactly. The killer had the gall to say that he only killed because he was instructed to do so. Even more outrageous is his claim that the case prosecutor, Byron Faraday, gave the order. Faraday is such a fool. He's been cornered by his very own prey. Sir, are you an acquaintance of Mr. Byron Faraday? He is a pathetic man who speaks nothing but nonsense. Nonsense? He once tried to explain to me a way of punishing those who cannot be brought to court. Those who cannot be brought to court. This is nonsense, for no man is above the law. Well, there are always a few exceptions. However, there is no reason to even deal with such individuals. A prosecutor is a guardian of the court, one with no obligation to outside matters. Thus, there is no reason to deal with such individuals, I see. Edgeworth, disgracing yourself as Faraday will not be forgiven. What kind of sentence is that? As will not be forgiven. Have no fear. I will not let you down, sir. In place of the accused prosecutor Byron Faraday, I'll prove the defendant's guilt. Very good. I've secured an hour of recess for you to prepare to do just that. Show them all the power of Von Karma. Will have you achieve a firm understanding of the case. Yes, sir. I have memorized everything that is written down in the case files. Well then, explain the case to me. I want to see if you really know what you're talking about. Understood. A murder was committed on September 8th in front of the Kodovian embassy. The victim, Mr. Deedman, was a staff member at the embassy. The defendant in this case, Mr. Mackerel, was held for questioning the night of the incident as he was deemed suspicious. He was quickly placed under arrest for possession of the murder weapon, a gun. Furthermore, at the time of the murder, the great thief Yatakarasu had successfully infiltrated the Kodofian embassy as well. A Kodopian embassy. At first, Rel claimed that he himself was the Yatakarasu, but that he did not kill Deedman. I wonder what he expected to gain from such a desperate lie. It's possible that he wants to go down while in the spotlight, if he is found guilty. There truly is no limit to people's insanity, or people's inanity. But I digress. Continue, Edgeworth. Yes, sir. During the trial, the prosecution presented the security footage that captured the murder. The footage clearly showed Mr. Rel as the murderer. The act of Mr. Rel firing the gun could be clearly seen from the visitor's gallery. Upon seeing that, the defendant retracted his statement and admitted to the murder. You know, this says 7 years ago, so I imagine around this time was well before, because at this point in time, Edgeworth should, you know, he hasn't gotten his famous reputation yet. So this is him just getting into things. Still under the tutelage of Von Karma. So at this point in time, Phoenix Wright should still be studying the bar exam. I did it because I was told to, by the real Yatakarasu, Byron Faraday. That sounds about right. However, you've forgotten one thing. While this may appear to simply be the murder of a Kodopian embassy staff member, people are actually referring to it as the second KG8 incident. The second KG8 incident. I'm very sorry, sir. I fear I failed to study hard enough. Well, even among the police, it's information that only a select few are privy to. Could you please enlighten me, sir? Sir, what do you mean by the second KG8 incident? In order for me to tell you that, you must first learn about the original case. Take a look at these documents. You just carry those with you? This is a 3-year-old newspaper. You have heard of the Amano Group scandal before, correct? Yes, I have. The secretary of Ernest Amano, the Amano Group's director, was arrested under suspicion of smuggling. Correct. CCU was an employee of the Amano Group and the sole witness to the smuggling operation. It was she who brought the crime to light. However, Ms. Yu was silenced before she could testify in court. Wasn't a Kodopian embassy staff member arrested for the murder? Yes, a Kodopian by the name of Manny Kochan was the suspect. However, due to lack of evidence, the case went unresolved. Lack of evidence? Ha! If only I was in charge of the case. I would have done everything in my power to prove his guilt. To make sure that all criminals are found guilty. My mentor really is dedicated. Faraday was the prosecutor on the case then, and he was as pathetic as ever. Mr. Faraday was in charge of the KG-8 incident as well? That's right. And now, once again, the victim of the case you are currently assigned to was someone who was scheduled to testify against that smuggling organization. And just like last time, the victim was murdered right before he was to testify. You're catching on. The victim was murdered just before his day in court against the smuggling organization. Events are occurring almost exactly the same way as they did in the KG-8 incident. That's why it is being called the second KG-8 incident. Yes. Yet there is one difference between the two incidents. What would that be? The so-called noble thief that is sending everyone into an uproar. The great thief Yatagarasu. I'd better find out more. If it is true that the Yatagarasu showed up at the Kadopian embassy, what could he or she have been after? No doubt to steal any suspicious accounting records and release them publicly. Or more likely to steal secrets from the Kadopian embassy itself, since the item that the Yatagarasu stole from there was sent to the police. What was it that the Yatagarasu sent to the police? I don't know the details. Anything related to the Yatagarasu is getting the top secret treatment. Still, I find it very ironic. By returning the stolen item to the police, it was proof positive that the Yatagarasu had infiltrated the embassy on the same day the staff member was killed. Criminals have a way of incriminating themselves, wouldn't you say? I don't know, you tell me, criminal. That would have to be the first time the Yatagarasu had left evidence behind, correct? Yes, indeed. If you wish to learn more about the Yatagarasu, then I suggest you ask Faraday. Mr. Faraday. He happens to be the prosecutor in charge of the Yatagarasu case as well. He's the prosecutor in charge of both the KG-8 incident and the Yatagarasu case? Mr. Faraday really has a lot on his plate. What is it, little girl? You're scary, mister. Did you need something? I want to trade these coins with you. A fistful of dimes, quarters, and pennies. But it looks like you've exactly $1. Is this what you want? Thanks. That's exactly what I needed. Will that child be here to watch the trial? How disrespectful for a child like that to be running around inside the courthouse. Does no one have respect for this country's judicial system anymore? The paperwork for the prosecutor's substitution is complete. Why, do you even know how much time there is left before the trial resumes? I'm sorry, sir. I can have you mopping up this courthouse instead of protecting it in an instant. Well, it's no bother, sir. Not being completely prepared could prove to be perfect handicap for me. A pro one you are. You had better collect the evidence from Faraday and prepare yourself. It's time for your debut, Edgeworth. We finally get to be in a courtroom. It's only been 3 episodes. Well, I don't even know I can count the first one because it's kind of like a prologue, right? Just what is going on? Why isn't Faraday here yet? How is it possible that the defense is not prepared yet either? Bailiff, where is Mr. Faraday? I'm not sure. I wasn't really paying attention. You wasn't paying attention? Oh, this is the first time we actually see him, his whole body. Wow, that's a change of pace for me. Oh, you must be the one Mr. Von Karma recommended. I hear this will be your first trial. I look forward to seeing how you perform. Oh, by the way, was there someone celebrating a birthday during the recess? I could have sworn that I heard a popper going off. Come to think of it, the other day with my grandson. Sir, it looks like the trial is about to resume. However, yes, it will be all but impossible to prove the witness a liar without the evidence from Faraday. What is it that blasted buffoon is up to? It's an emergency, sirs. Bitch. Silence. There shall be no yelling in this sacred hall of law. Bailiff, remove that man from this courtroom at once. But please, wait, you have to listen to me. There's an emergency. Defendant lobby number 2, Mr. Faraday and the defendant. The two of them, they're both dead, Your Honor. What? 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 Dun 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 dun. Stay back. Huh? Wow, he looked like a grizzled noir detective as I ever seen one. My God, he's grizzled. No one's allowed on the crime scene, period. Just who does this oddball think he is? This is becoming quite the hotspot. Isn't she Mr. Rail's defense attorney? She literally has the scales of justice as earrings. Wow. Hey you, no running in the hallway, pal. And who are you to tell me what to do? I'll never find out what's going on like this. It's time for some civil discourse. And you are... Who, me? Hey, pal. It's common courtesy to tell someone your name first before asking theirs. Ugh, point taken. My name is Miles Edgeworth. I am a district prosecutor. A prosecutor? I've never seen a prosecutor as young as you, pal. I've told you my name, now would you mind telling me yours? Detective Dick Gumshoe. And just recently, I've achieved my dream of becoming a detective. More than a dream, it's what I was born to do. Wait, maybe I should check and make sure I'm not really in some crazy dream first. This detective is entirely too excited to be at a murder scene. So Detective Gumshoe, would you mind telling me what you know about the incident? You know that I don't have to tell you anything, right? I know that, but it would behoove you to fill me in on what you know. Wow, you're a proud one for such a youngster, aren't you? Well, anyway, Detective Bad is the one in charge, but you're just gonna have to ask him for all the details, okay? As for me, I was guarding the door to defendant lobby number 2. So you were on guard detail. Did you notice anything strange while you were on duty? Well, I freaked out when I heard a gunshot, and then I kind of froze. You're a detective and a measly gunshot scared you that much? Then again, I can hardly claim to not know what it's like to hear one at close range. Then Detective Bad came running to the scene. We went into lobby number 2 together, and both men were lying there dead. Is that everything? Yeah, that's it. I was in the hallway the whole time, but I didn't hear a single peep of our struggle. Interesting. Other than the gunshot, you didn't hear a single sound of commotion? Do you have a minute? You know I'm not really into talking to people I don't know, especially at a time like this. I apologize for not introducing myself before bothering you. My name is Miles Edgeworth. I was to take Mr. Faraday's place in court. Edgeworth, huh? Never heard of you. So Faraday's substitute is a newbie, huh? I have you know, madam, that I study under Manfred von Karma. Do not take me for some naive novice. Do not take me for some naive novice. So you're a student of Von Karma? I should have. Those calls are a dead giveaway. Stop right there. These are the garments of one who gallantly presents the facts. Thanks for the great laugh, but try not to make me laugh so much, okay? I wasn't trying to do anything of the sort. Just kidding. I was just goofing around. By the way, do you know who I am? My name is Callisto Yu. And if you're telling the truth, then we were about to go head-to-head in court. But of course, I've heard much about you, Miss Yu. Of course. You're a regular Shakespeare. Can I say something funny? I'd like you to update me on the situation. I don't really know anything. Why don't you try talking to those detectives over there? If that's the case, then why are you here? What's so funny? It's just the way you speak is so tactless. The person I was going against in court until only a little while ago was just murdered. It's not like I could go back into the courtroom pretending as though nothing happened. That's a good point. I apologize for such an insensitive question. It's fine, don't worry about it. I like her. Excuse me, but who are you? Detective Tyro Bad, homicide. You got the noir music in the background, my goodness. Kind of. I was informed of the situation and came as quickly as possible. So how did you arrive and inspect the body before me? Faraday requested for me to testify in a trial. Plain and simple. Mr. Faraday requested that you be here? I've already contacted HQ about the situation. I've got nothing to say to you, kid. Kid? I'm Mr. Faraday's substitute in today's trial. Therefore, I insist that you update me on the situation. I can't back down here. I have the right to know. Do I need to teach you a thing or two about how to talk to adults, kid? Is he threatening me? Is he going to pour his gun? It's just a mirror. How dare he trick me like that? Faraday was stabbed to death with some kind of blade. He had a gun in his hand. The other man, a Mr. Mackerel, was shot and killed. He was found holding a bloody knife in his hand. Was there anyone else who went into the defendant's lobby number 2? Yeah, that big lug over there. His name's Gumshoe. He was in charge of guarding the place. He's claiming that no one else entered this room. If that's the case, then they must have killed each other, correct? Maybe. Such impotence. This guy is really testing my patience. Why was I not informed that you were going to testify in court? Homicides aren't my only gig. The Yatakarasu case is also one of my assignments. But you were called upon to comment on the Yatakarasu characteristics in order to assess if Mr. Faraday really was the Yatakarasu or not. Well, looks like you just might have a brain after all in that head of yours, son. Son? I'm not your son, Pops. Miss Yu, there's someone here who wishes to see you. Who is it? A Kadopian embassy staff member by the name of Manny Cochin. What's going on? Detective Bad and Miss Yu's moods just changed all of a sudden. Wait a second. Wasn't Manny Cochin? I'll be right there. It's nice to see you again, Miss Yu. Why are you here? I have no desire to ever see you again. Now. Actually, would you mind stepping outside for a brief chat? Fine, let's go. Bad. Varkarma. It's been a long time. I knew you would show up. You usually do when the Yatakarasu is involved, and I see this case is no exception. Do you know Detective Bad, sir? Yes, he's like an old bloodhound that never leaves the scene of a crime. If only he would get a promotion and move on. It's the crime scene where a detective is most useful and effective. It's not like I don't know that. Moving on though, Bad. The man that I just passed by. Was he not the suspect from the KG8 incident? So I was right. Just what is that man doing, wandering around here? That Faraday. I can't believe he let such an easy catch get away. Imbecile. I would have proved his guilt in 3 minutes. Varkarma, I think you said enough for now. It's in poor taste to speak like that about the departed. Very well. Back on topic. I'm placing Edgeworth in charge of the investigation here.
Objection!
Wow, little Varkarma. Papa, how can you place him in charge? Look at her little tiny, what's that? Oh, that kind of whip call when you use on horses. Wait a minute, is that ants on the window? Just not noticed that. Riding crop, I think that's what it's called. Franziska, what are you doing here? I'm here for summer vacation. What else? These two should hook up, honestly. Franziska von Kramer. So she is here on vacation from Germany. She is the daughter of Manfred von Kramer and a student of his, who's also junior to me. Who's the mom? I'm so curious. She gotta be, given how Franziska is, I can only imagine somebody closely resembling Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil. Something akin to that kind of appearance. You're the one who juniored to me, and don't you forget it. You're not conveniently avoiding the bar examination, are you? Ha! If you were able to pass, then I'll have absolutely no trouble at all. I'll never allow myself to lose to you. Never! Why does she always have to be so competitive? Anyway, Papa, are you really assigning Miles Edgeworth to cover the case? Yes, I am. Why do you ask? Well, you know, I'm close to becoming a prosecutor myself, and I am 100% confident that I can do a better job than him. That's just like Franziska. She has no problem bad-mouthing someone right in front of them. Bet. Yeah. These two will be conducting the investigation. What? You want me to let both of these kids loose on the crime scene? Huh. This is a perfect opportunity for them to work on their prosecutorial skills. A crime scene is not a place for children to be messing around in. I'm the one with the authority over this crime scene, Bad, and I will not tolerate complaining. Yeah. Edgeworth, Franziska, I'll leave this case to the two of you. Understood, sir. Yes, Papa. I'll go take care of the paperwork now. Remember, I'll accept nothing but a perfect report from the both of you. Do not disappoint me. Hold up, Von Karma. I still haven't agreed to this. Miles Edgeworth. It's been quite some time, Franziska. This will be the perfect chance for us to see which of us is truly worthy of the Von Karma name. Would it kill you to at least say hello? Huh. Long time no see. Very good. Just because you became prosecutor first doesn't mean you can act all proud. She hasn't changed a bit. Miles Edgeworth, as I was saying, we shall see which one of us is worthy of the Von Karma name. For crying out loud, I've been reduced to a babysitter. Looks like Mr. Von Karma was successful in convincing the detective. That's just like him. He never fails. Now, I appreciate it if you could quickly run me through the facts, Detective Bad. You're better off checking things out on your own. Very well. Seems like getting help from Detective Bad would be a most arduous task. There's obviously got to be a setup. Because conveniently they both die. Right when one's being accused of being some kind of vigilante. Someone was definitely covering their tracks. It's kind of obvious. Because at best, whoever did this extremely stalled for time. Ugh. It's the only real explanation that they killed each other simultaneously? Mr. Edgeworth, you should listen to someone until they are finished talking. What are you talking about? I'll only say it one more time. This is a competition to see who is truly worthy of the Von Karma name. A competition. The person that figures out the truth first wins. The person who doesn't discover the truth is a dishonor to the name. Exactly. I don't care that you became a prosecutor before me. I simply refuse to hear any more foolish things come from your foolish mouth. Fine, whatever it makes you happy. Can I take that as you accepting my challenge? Once again, whatever makes you happy. Ha! Well then, let's begin the investigation, shall we? I'm going to find the perfect evidence and prettily present it to the professional I am. Present it like the professional I am. Competing to discover the truth behind a crime. All delightfully childish. Kid. Ha! Says you right, Miles. He just called you a kid. I said kids, kid. How dare you call me a kid as well? I'll do what I please. I won't allow you to cause a ruckus on my crime scene. Hey, big guy. You're going to watch over these two. Yes, sir. Detective Bad, sir. Now, do what I say from now on, kids, okay? You better not get in our way, Scruffy. You'll feel the bite of my whip if you do. Then you, prosecutor boy. Let's get your investigating started already, alright? Great. Now even that detective is treating me like a child. Alright, it's time to get investigating. Get a move on, prosecutor boy. My name is Miles Edgeworth, and if you were to call me prosecutor boy one more time, it will be my duty as a prosecutor to look into your monthly salary. What? And what would you do with my salary after you saw how much it was? That's up to you to know, isn't it? Really? Sounds good, pal. You're so naive. Detective Bad, may I have a word with you? What is it? It appears that both a knife and a gun were used as murder weapons. Yeah, it does. That leads us to our first question of the investigation. Where did the men acquire the weapons? Gun was inside of Faraday's bag. It was a piece of evidence that was presented in the trial earlier today. It was used to kill the Kodopian embassy staff member. But I never heard anything about the knife. Mr. L was being held by the police. There's no way he could have brought it in. Which means it's possible that Faraday had the knife on him from the start as well. Could it have been a piece of evidence that had yet to be presented? But then, why doesn't Detective Bad know about it? Wait, what if? It's possible that Mr. Faraday brought the knife in under the guise of prosecutorial evidence. He could have then brought it out and attacked Mr. Rudd with it. Maybe you got a brain in there after all, kid. Yeah. You going to treat me like a child forever? It looks like Mr. Faraday attacked Mr. Rell first, who then counterattacked. That's the only logical conclusion you can draw from a scene like this. Not yet. I feel that it's much too early to be drawing conclusions already. We must first find conclusive evidence so as to protect the honor of the Von Karma name. It looks like Mr. Faraday fell on top of Mr. Rell. At first glance, it seems like they must have killed each other. However, using logic is the only logical conclusion is, aha! Well, what is that outburst for? My detective's instinct just hit me real hard. It was Mr. Rell that fell first, see? You don't need a detective's instinct for that. It's common sense. But I suppose we won't know much more than that until after I examine the bodies. Looks like Mr. Faraday died while holding the gun in his right hand. So he shot Mr. Rell and then fell on top of them while still gripping onto the gun. I guess that does seem kind of strange, huh? I mean, why would Mr. Faraday know how to fire a gun? It's not exactly rocket science. Even I know how to pull a trigger. Although I doubt I ever need to use one. I hope I never have to fire a gun either, pal. But it sure does look cool to hold a gun in your hands. It appears that the police screening procedures need a thorough review. Anyway, I should jot down some notes about the handgun in Mr. Faraday's hand. There's some blood stuck on it. Then he must have used this as a weapon. Yep, no doubt about it. Was Mr. Faraday carrying this on his personage? Did he bring this as a piece of evidence for the trial? Or did he bring it with a very different intention in mind? Are there this plastic bag scattered all over around? Those bags are for keeping evidence safe, pal. I know that much, detective. You sure are good at this stuff, aren't you, pal? Normally I'd be happy when someone compliments me, but when it's this guy? Anyway, could these plastic bags be evidence of a fight between the two men? Mr. Faraday, how ironic it is for him to lose his life in a courthouse. Yeah, why did it have to be like this? I don't know what to say. I can't believe this happened while I was on watch, pal. Rather than beating yourself up, you should spend your time continuing the investigation. Didn't you become a detective in order to solve crimes? Yeah. To get back to work. Find out the cause of this murder. Right, I'm on it, pal. First he killed a Cadopian embassy staff member, then he was murdered himself. This guy wasn't exactly an angel, you know. Oh, what makes you say that? Well, he's been hauled into the precinct several times for theft and assault, pal. So yeah, he's definitely the type to have committed a murder or two. Well, he did admit to killing Mr. Deed Man. Hey, good point, pal. I knew my detective's intuition was telling me something. Detective's intuition? Yep. Do you know about it? It's a special feeling that all We don't have time for this conversation right now. Let's return to the investigation. His hand is all black around here, see? I wonder what it could be. It looks, if you look closely, this blotching pad resembles an ink stain. An ink stain? Yes. I usually get ink on my hand when I use my feather pen. Feather pen? I've never seen one before. Sure you aren't just making it up, pal? Mr. Rail's cause of death was from being shot, correct? That's what we think, but it's hard to tell with him lying face down. Death is bad enough, but it's truly lamentable that someone would try to hide the truth. Are you sure they were trying to hide something? I can't confirm Mr. Rail's cause of death with his body position like that. Detective Bad, I'd like to examine the bodies in further detail if possible. What's this? You're not able to form a theory with them the way they are? I believe an examination of the bodies is vital to finding the perfect evidence, don't you? I suppose you do have a point. Well, hurry up and get on with it. Labby. Yes, sir. We've taken enough photos of the scene, sir. And there you have it. Do you not approve? Of course not. What? Investigation of a crime scene is the work of a detective, so don't touch a thing. Hey, big fella, turn over the bodies for me, will you? Okay. Please forgive me, Mr. Faraday, sir. Gumshoe, do not get emotionally involved. Remember, you're a detective. Yes, sir. Understood, sir. There's a knife wound in his chest here, see? Wonder if the wound matches the knife Mr. Rell is holding. Labby. Yes, sir. Verifying now, sir. Make it quick. From the look of things, one could deduce that the knife Mr. Rell is holding is what killed Mr. Faraday. There's something in his breast pocket. It's a fountain pen? Hey, you know, I always keep a pencil behind my ear. It's because Detective Bad is always telling me you should always write your name on everything you own. Yes, somehow you do strike me as a quite forgetful individual. Looks like Mr. Faraday was stabbed with this knife that Mr. Rell is holding. Youch! What's wrong, Detective? My stomach starts to hurt from just thinking about being stabbed. Just keep your mind on the case, alright? Mr. Faraday is holding a gun in his right hand. That's the one Mr. Rell got blown away by, right? That be your answer? Yes, sir. We found that the ballistic markings do match that gun. Oh, ballistic markings are the figurative footprints a gun leaves on a bullet when fired. Every gun leaves its own unique ballistic markings. Therefore, by looking at the markings on a bullet, you can tell which gun it came from. Yeah, that's it. Of course, I already knew all about that, pal. Maybe you'd be better off going back to the academy. Hey, come on, sir. Cut me some slack, will ya? So the bullet that was fired from this gun is what felled Mr. Rell. The shot in his chest. It takes some guts to fire a gun in a courthouse. I mean, I've been a detective for a while, for a whole week, and I still haven't fired a single round yet. There aren't any burn marks on his clothes. That must mean... Wait, burn marks? The round grows very hot as it is discharged from a firearm. Therefore, burn marks are usually left when a shot is fired from the point-blank range. Ergo, Mr. Rell must have been shot from at least a yard or two away. You sure do know a bunch of neat stuff for your age, pal. Apparently, this detective has much common knowledge as your everyday marsupial. But let's now try to understand how these two men died. First, Mr. Faraday took the gun and the knife from today's trial evidence. Then he aimed the gun at Mr. Rell and fired. However, Mr. Rell managed to grab the knife and counter Mr. Faraday while being shot. Then the two men fell together where they stood. That is my theory in any case. What a crazy way to go. Still, something about that explanation just doesn't seem right. I believe I now have a firmer grasp on what happened here. There are some plastic bags stacked on the table. There's a tea set too, but there doesn't seem to be any sign of a disturbance. Yeah, the table's all neat and tidy. Maybe they were super quiet in their scuffle? After all, I didn't hear anything from out in the hallway, you know? Maybe the plastic bags scattered on the floor are throwing us off. The window is open and... Hey, there's a fresh flowery scent in there. Huh? The flowers in the garden down there are so gross and ghastly. Do you think maybe you could try offering something useful for a change? Well, at least there's no way someone escaped through this window, pal. They wouldn't wake up and smell the flowers after a fall from the 3rd floor. Are you willfully ignorant? Are you willfully ignoring the fact that there's also iron bars on the windows? Yeah, I guess there's that too. Either way, no one could get through these windows, right? They thought of everything when they were designing this courthouse. Very nice. There's some stuff in this bag, Val. I suppose this was Mr. Faraday's bag. It's probably the trial evidence I was supposed to collect from him. This is the evidence? I better not touch it. I'll leave prints on it. Do you just not pay attention to anything you do? This decorative plant's foliage is quite nice. It's actually soothing to be around. Perhaps I should purchase one for my room. Like this sofa is ready to be disposed of. It's so soft, I could sleep for all 25 hours of the day on this thing. If only I could dispose of him. Whoa! What is it, Detective Gumshoe? My TV at home is so tiny compared to this one, pal. That perhaps you should purchase a more normal-sized television like this one. Oh, let me see here. Wow, this thing is huge. What? And way too noisy. You're the noisy one, Scruffy. Don't touch it. You'll get your fingerprints all over it. What? I didn't touch it. Preservation of the crime scene is the foundation of detective work. Foundation, huh? Sounds like something the rookie here needs to shore up on. Let's try some stuff here. But the window, the breeze blew the plastic bags all over the place. That's what I was thinking of. That splotch on Mr. Faraday's hand. I wonder if it might be the ink from his fountain pen. Oh, let's ask the lab guy. Detective Gumshoe, I've confirmed that the substance on Mr. Faraday's hand is the ink from his fountain pen. Now, usually forensics gotta go to the lab and probably take at least a day to make sure things match up to confirm something. It doesn't take literally a few minutes. I know it's a game, but it doesn't take like that quickly just to give them the answers that they're looking for. If only that was that simple. I see, good work. You know, I've always wanted to say that, even if it was just one time in my life. If Mr. Faraday wrote with his fountain pen in his left hand, I think it's fair to assume he was left-handed. It appears that Mr. Faraday's pen is very important to our case as well. Okay, if you say so, pal. So they put the gun in the wrong hand. There's a very tidy pile of plastic bags on the table, and yet a portion of them wound up scattered on the floor as well. It's not likely that the ones on the floor were knocked over during a struggle. In which case, might there not be another explanation as to how they got there? Another reason? I believe it's possible that the blood on the outside of the bag is related somehow. Please get that blood away from me, pal. Detective Gumshoe, who blood is on this bag? Hold on, let me ask the lab guy. Alright, please hurry. Wait till you get a load of this, pal. It's Mr. Faraday's. Oh, and the technician said they didn't find anything else on or in the bag either. It would appear that this bag is a very important piece of evidence. Okay, if you say so. I'll leave it in your hands, pal. You're the detective. You should be doing this stuff, not him. I guess there's not much left to investigate, huh? They really did kill each other. No, we cannot conclude that quite yet. There's still something I find very peculiar here. The theory that they simply killed one another is too simplistic in this case. In fact, there's actually a contradiction that shows there is another possibility. No way, pal. Really? I suppose I will just have to show you the contradiction in this crime scene. Is this spot somehow connecting?
Eureka!
Now we came face to face with the contradiction I spoke of, and it is this. Mr. Faraday used his left hand to write with his fountain pen. Ergo, he is left-handed. And yet, the handgun in his right hand. Don't you find it odd that the left-handed Mr. Faraday will hold the gun in his right hand? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the great contradiction haunting this crime scene. Hey, you're right, pal. That does seem kind of strange. But how could something like that happen? The facts add up to one conclusion, and one alone. Someone else put the gun in Mr. Faraday's hand after he died. Someone else? Plastic bags scattered on the floor and a gun in the wrong hand? I sense the presence of a shadowy figure behind this case. A person of vile intent who is serious about keeping the truth from us. Didn't have to look up for any answers. Part 1 is nearly done. Here's the autopsy report. It is probable that Mr. Rell survived for a short time after he was shot. However, Mr. Faraday died instantaneously from his stabbing. Interesting. It looks like we now know everything we need to know about this case. Are you sure we know everything? Of course. The incident began with Mr. Faraday attempting to get his revenge. The prosecutor went into a rage from being accused and tried to kill the defendant. But the defendant fought back and they ended up killing each other. It's all very clear and simple. There is absolutely no margin for doubt. Do you really believe that to be the truth? Ha! Are you saying that just because I figured out the truth before you? That you don't want to believe it's true? Yeah. It's alright. If you disagree with my argument, then prove me wrong. Well, if there are any contradictions to be found, that is. Don't worry, I will. Mr. Faraday's death was instantaneous, while Mr. Rell survived for a short time. From this, it's obvious that Mr. Faraday died after he shot Mr. Rell. And Mr. Rell, while on the brink of death, stole Mr. Faraday's knife and stabbed him. Those are the facts of this case. Mr. Faraday's death was instantaneous, therefore he must have attacked first. Proving that logic to be false is probably the fastest way to show her that she's wrong. In that case, I should first look for any holes in her theory. Do you truly believe that Mr. Faraday died instantaneously? I have the murder report right here. Mr. Faraday died instantaneously of shock due to being stabbed in the chest. There, you see? It's been documented clear as day. Ugh.
Hold it!
Mr. Faraday shot Mr. Rell before he died. Do you have any basis for that statement? Your foolishness has no end, does it? Now, I hate to repeat myself, however. Mr. Faraday died instantaneously. That's all the bases I need. Alright, so if Mr. Faraday died instantaneously, then he must have attacked Mr. Rell before being stabbed. You're finally beginning to catch on, I see.
Hold it!
So you believe that the dying Mr. Rell stole the knife from Mr. Faraday. Mr. Rell became desperate as he did not want to die. Human beings can do amazing things when they are put to the test. So, the two men struggled, and in the end, Mr. Rell was able to grab the knife and stab Mr. Faraday. The messy condition of this room is a testament to their struggle. Yes, my logic is perfectly sound. Can you really say that it's perfect? What are you insinuating? Nothing. However, I can't let what you said slide by without further inquiry. One must be clear and precise. So if you could append that statement to your testimony. Fine.
Objection!
If the two men were fighting, their struggle would have surely caused quite a noise. However, Detective Gumshoe testified that he heard absolutely nothing. Ha! You place too much faith in that detective's testimony, you know. But for the sake of argument, let's say there wasn't a fight. How then did Mr. Rell get his hands on the knife? Mr. Faraday's bag was sitting right here in the lobby, number 2. It's not hard to imagine that perhaps Mr. Rell saw a chance and took it out at some point. So, what are you saying is this? Mr. Rell took a chance when he saw the opportunity and took the knife from the bag? And then Mr. Faraday shot Mr. Rell after being stabbed? Isn't there something strange in Francisca's statement just now? Wait, something doesn't add up. Oh, really? It's simply not possible for Mr. Faraday to have shot Mr. Rell after being stabbed.
Take that!
According to the coroner's report, Mr. Faraday died instantaneously, meaning that he died immediately upon being stabbed by the knife. Ergo, he could not possibly have fired the gun after that. Oh, you got me. But of course. Well then, if the report is correct, then there is only one correct explanation. If we suppose that Mr. Rell attacked first, then Mr. Faraday, who died instantaneously, would have been unable to kill Mr. Rell. Therefore, Mr. Rell must have stabbed Mr. Faraday after he was shot. Then they both died. That is the only explanation that makes logical sense. Negating your opponent's ideas in order to prove your own theory. I see you've been studying, Franziska. I just wanted to explain it to you as simply as possible before you foolishly propose a foolish theory that only a foolish fool like you could. How naive of you to believe that your only options are valid. Only your only opinions are valid. And still expect to discover the truth that the crime scene offers you. Franziska, you still got a ways to go. What are you talking about? Are you saying there's a flaw in my logic? Mr. Faraday died instantly. And the fact that he did is what gives rise to the contradiction in this scene. The order the bodies fell, right? Let me get this straight. What you are arguing is this. Mr. Faraday took the gun from his evidence bag and shot Mr. Rell. Then the wounded Mr. Rell found an opportunity to take the knife and strike back. Upon being stabbed, Mr. Faraday died on the spot, and Mr. Rell died thereafter. If that's the case, then how do you explain this? Take a good look at the order in which their bodies are piled. No. Mr. Faraday's body is lying on top of Mr. Rell's, therefore, Mr. Rell must have died before Mr. Faraday. Impossible! Yes, I agree that it seems strange no matter what angle you approach it from. Which means that the real mystery behind this crime scene is that... No, not so fast, Miles Edgeworth. What now? I simply think you ought to think a bit more outside the box. And that it's even clearer now that the incident started with Mr. Faraday's murderous intent. Be sure bounce back quickly. An explanation won't be enough this time. We're going to take some very decisive evidence to prove her wrong. It was just chance that Mr. Faraday's body fell on top of Mr. Rell's. The two bodies fell into a pile, which indicates that they attacked each other at the same time. It really doesn't matter in the slightest that they fell in the opposite order. I just know that Franziska's explanation isn't absolutely correct. All I have to do is find a hole in her logic. Once I do, I can then present her with the evidence that proves the contradiction. It was just all right, into it.
Objection!
But
Hold it! Objection!
we believe they killed each other at close range. Sorry, but that's impossible. Just as it is written in the crime scene notes, the firing of the handgun did not leave a gunpowder burn on Mr. Rel's clothes. Therefore, Mr. Rel and the gun must have been separated by a distance of at least 2 or 3 yards. Yes, this is by far the biggest contradiction. 2 bodies are piled up on each other, yet the gun was fired from a distance? And with there being no chance that Mr. Rel moved that far after being shot, that leaves only one possible explanation. What are you foolish fool? If I'm not right, then who was it that made the first move with the intent to kill, huh? Who? Here in this room, contradictions appeared no matter which man we claim attacked first. Thus, there can only be one explanation. There was a third person here. It was that third person who killed both Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rel, and set their bodies on top to make it look like a double murder. That third person is the real culprit. Miles Edgeworth, there's just one thing you're missing. Evidence, correct? Exactly. Everything you said up until now is nothing but a story played out in your head. However, this is where the real test begins. Can you prove that there was a third person involved in this crime scene? Of course. If a third person was truly here, that fact would resolve that glaring contradiction. The proof that it had been set up made it look like they killed each other. I'll present it and lay bare the final piece of the puzzle that's not yet in place.
Take that!
The gun in Mr. Faraday's hand and the plastic bag with his blood on it. These two items point to the presence of a third person. How so? Recall Detective Gumshoe's testimony. I was in the hallway the whole time, but I didn't hear a single peep of a struggle. If there wasn't a struggle in this room, then there shouldn't be any plastic bags on the ground, meaning that someone else must have deliberately scattered them around. Do you not see the possibility in this? Disregarding the gun for the moment, there's a high probability of blood spatter when a knife is used on a person. If the culprit held the knife with a plastic bag around it, they could use the bag to catch any blood spatter from when they withdrew the knife. Then by spreading a few more plastic bags around, mixing the bloody one with them, and arranging the room to make it look like there was a struggle between the two, they were able to conceal their presence. Looks like we've still got a long way to go in this investigation. Yes.
Objection!
What the heck is up with you, pal? Mr. Bad, I advise you to place Detective Gumshoe under arrest. What? What's the meaning of this? Looks like you're not man enough to discipline your own subordinates. Don't you dare. That detective claims he was there, standing in front of the door the entire time. I have it on good authority that it was all a giant lie. Miss Yu, I ask you that you please explain this last statement. I'll let His Honor explain it himself. I saw it with my own eyes, I tell you. During the recess, there was a period of time when there was no one in the hallway. What? See, Mr. Bad? I ask you, why would a detective who was supposedly doing his job the whole time want to fabricate such a lie? Gumshoe, did you kill Faraday? No! Of course not, sir. It would appear that the one who set this crime scene up is that detective. He couldn't set up a set of chairs, which basically renders his testimony a complete lie and wholly invalid. It looks like your perfect logic has just come tumbling down, Miles. Nah. I was in the hallway the whole time, but I didn't hear a single peep of a struggle. Was that statement really a lie? Detective Gumshoe, you're now a suspect in the murder of two men. Now spit it out. Now spit out the truth, or so help me. I haven't lied to anyone, sir. Honest. I really was there. I was in the hallway the whole time.
Hold it!
Detective Bat, I ask you that you do not act without my permission. After all, I am the one that is heading up this investigation, am I not? Don't talk like you know what's going on, boy. All I want is for this investigation to run perfectly. Perfection is the only wish of a disciple of Von Karma, after all. Therefore, before you take Detective Gumshoe into custody, I'd like to set the record straight on something. And what's that? 1 second. I suppose the one thing I like clarified is Detective Gumshoe's motive for committing this crime. Motive, huh? Gumshoe, you got a grudge against Faraday or anything? No, sir. Not me. Not a single bad thing against Mr. Faraday, sir. Is that a fact?
Objection!
You really have a problem with lying, don't you, Detective Gumshoe? I'm telling you, I am not lying. The more unnatural you act, the more suspicious you become, you know. If you want a motive, Edgeworth, I have one for you right here. Could you please share it with us? However, be forewarned that I won't hesitate to object to flights of fancy, because all I'm interested in is the perfect explanation. Fine, you amuse me, so I'll humor you with a little courtroom practice. It was about a week ago. I saw the detective get chewed out by a livid Faraday in front of the precinct. He stood there super pale as Mr. Faraday yelled, "That's a salary cut for you, you nitwit." The brand new detective suddenly getting his salary cut. That's reason enough for a grudge. Can they really actually do that? Like, the prosecutors actually have the authority to cut a detective's salary? Like, it gotta be a separate thing. Or, well, I guess it can go to the detective superiors and leave it to them to do that. I guess that technically is true. Well, how's that for a perfect explanation? You totally misunderstand me, pal. No matter how mad I get, I could never hold a grudge. Quiet. You can't trust anything you say. Sir. There's nothing wrong with the motive she proposed per se, but there are some gaps in her logic that need to be filled in. Miss Yu's perfect explanation may not be so perfect after all.
Hold it!
A week ago? And you and Detective Gumshoe are acquaintances. No way. I only met him in person today. And how did you know about Detective Gumshoe? Well, I've seen him around before.
Hold it!
Mr. Faraday was upset? Yeah. You know what else? Mr. Faraday isn't exactly known to get angry often. But there he was, totally beat red in the face. And the offended detective just stood there, pale as a ghost, like he was about to die. Just like the face he's making now, right? I'm completely innocent, I tell you. A poor man. It was quite the scene with the detective.
Hold it!
You just stood there watching this unfold in front of you. Yeah, I have to say it was really enjoyable too. But that's why when I saw Detective Gumshoe earlier, I knew to steer clear of him. No way. I thought it was because I had something stuck on my face. But you do. Oh, what have I got stuck on my face? Let's start with your eyes, nose, mouth. Oh, and those ridiculous eyebrows. Huh? Oh man, messing with your head is just too much. Miss Yu, if you don't mind, I'd like to return to your testimony now. Sure, why not?
Hold it!
To cut a new detective's salary right off the bat like that. I'm not really familiar with the way you guys relate, but is that a common practice? Speaking of cutting my salary, didn't you threaten to do that to me earlier too? I suppose I did. It's only natural to cut a worthless detective's salary down to their actual worth. My father can even fire anyone, new or old, with a snap of his fingers. Do you think maybe that's the reason for detectives to hate you people? Well, I guess they really shouldn't cut people's pay. Detective Bat, don't tell me Mr. Von Karma cut your salary earlier.
Hold it!
You call your explanation perfect. Yeah. Is it not to your liking? Unfortunately for you, it's just not up to my standards. Oh, is there something you want for me to clarify in that case? Alright, if you could clear this one thing up for me. I understand Detective Gumshoe's potential motive for killing Mr. Faraday. However, what about his motive for killing Mr. Rel? His motive for killing Rel? Like I would know. If there was no clear motive for both of the murders, then I doubt this incident would have occurred. Wouldn't you agree? Is there anyone else who might have had a grudge against either of the two men? Or should we look into that ourselves? Oh, in that case, I have absolutely no idea. What? That's impossible. She must know something. Wait. Can you please not glare at me like that? It makes me laugh. I didn't even do anything, and you're already laughing away? Well, anyway, the way I see it, as long as he had a motive to kill one of the two, this crime would have played out the way it did anyway. Oh? Would you care to explain your logic? And this time, please try to provide a truly perfect explanation. Perfect like that? Stop being so uptight, or is that a requisite trait for being of our karma? Miles Edgeworth, I demand that you shut this rude woman up. I wish you both be quiet for just 1 second. Oh well, I guess I have to explain it to you kids. There's no one out there with a motive to kill both Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rel. All you really have to establish is that someone had a grudge against one of the two men. Mr. Rel, who happened to be there, became a witness to Mr. Faraday's murder. Therefore, he was killed out of necessity and set up to look like they had killed each other. I wonder if that's really true. If there's no one out there with a grudge against both men, I should take another hard look at the evidence for this morning's case. The second KG8 incident, as people are calling it, involving an embassy staff member, and the two men who both wound up as suspects in the case. Is there someone else I'm overlooking who is somehow related to them?
Hold it!
So there's no one else who might have a grudge against both Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rel. I suppose no one is a bit of a stretch. But I'm perfectly sure no one like that was here in this courthouse today. She's lying through her teeth. We just saw someone like that here earlier. Besides, you don't need to prove that the killer had a grudge against both men.
Hold it!
Someone with a grudge against one of the men. In that case, aren't there plenty of other people who fit the bill? Sure, after all, who doesn't garner scorn from another simply by being alive? But the only one who held a grudge and acted upon it by killing was Detective Gumshoe. Yeah. Furthermore,
Hold it!
so you're saying that he was basically silenced. Aren't you glad you managed to avoid the same fate, Your Honor? Why, if he had been the one to witness the blood-covered detective... What? Detective Gumshoe, you would have killed even me? What? I could never do something as terrible as that, Your Honor. There's no need for even a second of deliberation. I will hand down my blood here. Your Honor, take a look around. We're not in court right now. It would be greatly appreciated if you would stay here with us in reality. Please forgive me. I know not what I do. Are you there, Miss Hill? Hurry up and continue with your testimony. If you fail to do so, I will whip you into shape. That's nice. Sounds kind of like fun, actually. Anyway, Detective Gumshoe had to erase the witness, Mr. Rel.
Hold it!
I didn't do it, pal. No hard feelings, but I don't think we can take the word of a criminal seriously. But I can't even begin to think of ways to set up a crime scene. I suppose you do lack the necessary tactical mind required to do such a thing. Why do you have to kick a man when he's down, pal? You shouldn't put yourself down, detective. You're a big boy. I bet you thought it up all by yourself, right? Yeah, that's right. And I worked really hard at it too. I think this proves one thing about Detective. He has the mental acuity of a worm. I have to admit, her explanation makes sense. However, there's also something she overlooked in her testimony. Miss Yu, I believe there is someone you overlooked in making your statement. Or rather, is it because you rather not bring this person up? What do you mean? We are looking for someone with a reason to kill both Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rao. I can think of at least one person that fits the bill. He was a suspect in the original KG-8 incident, and a member of the Kodovian embassy staff, Mr. Manny Cochin. That's right, the very man who came to visit you earlier out in the hallway. The man who killed a member of the Kodovian embassy staff, Mr. Rao. And the man who was the lead prosecutor of the KG incident, Mr. Faraday. Are you telling me that Mr. Cochin has no reason at all to kill both of these men? Well, I suppose he might have a reason or two. You cover for me, pal. Maybe you're not such a bad guy after all. Don't get ahead of yourself. You're still a suspect, make no mistake about that. The perfect evidence, the perfect testimony, these are the only things I wish to hold. But I didn't do it. You will stay under my authority and go investigate Mr. Manny Cochin for me. And remember, I will not be very forgiving. You want to investigate Cochin? You just be wasting your time. Why is that? Cochin was up in the viewing gallery watching the trial, or so I was told. Every cop in this place has been keeping an eye on that guy since he arrived. And the only real suspect we have is still Detective Gumshoe. I suppose so. Oh wait, come on, Detective Bad. You gotta believe me, sir. I really was in that hallway the whole time, sir. I never took a single step into this room, sir. Okay, then are you saying there was someone else who passed through the hallway? No, there was no one else, sir. Then why should I believe you didn't do it? As one incredibly foolish detective standing right in front of a crime scene all by himself. It's as good as a confession of guilt. I have to admit, it's a bit strange. Most criminals will fabricate some sort of lie to escape their crimes. And if that detective really wanted to prove that he is innocent, you think he would at the very least offer up "I spaced out while I was on duty" or like. Come on, Gumshoe. Time for your interrogation. Detective Bat. Miles Edgeworth, I will go on ahead and report this to Papa. And that, as they say, is that right. And that, as they say, is that. Right, everyone? Ho 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 ho. Merry Christmas. Well, I suppose we should both be getting back to our real jobs now, huh? Before we do, Miss Yu, there is something I'd like to speak with you about. What is it? To have set these two men up and make it look like they killed each other. If there's one thing I cannot forgive, is the desecration of the dead. So, what did you want to ask me about? The current case of the murder Kodovian embassy staff member. I've heard that people have begun calling it the second KG-8 incident. Only among you law enforcement types. And what about it? I'd like for you to tell me everything you know about the original KG-8 incident. I'm afraid I can't help you. I don't know anything beyond what was reported in the papers. No, I believe you know much more, since you are directly tied to the KG-8 incident. I appreciate it if you stop with the false accusations. Faceless outbursts are useless both inside and outside the courtroom, don't you know? I do. But I also know that I do have a leg to stand on here. Think you can stop making that ultra serious face in front of me? If you could please stop laughing for just 1 second. I'm not going to make any headway like this. I'm just going to have to show her exactly how related to the KGA incident she is. Miss you. I believe that I have proof of your connection to the KGA incident. That file is your proof? Very well then. Why don't you tell me exactly how I'm related to the KGA incident? Your connection to the KGA incident is through the victim. The victim's name is CCU. You would know that she has the same last name as you. Can you really still tell me with a straight face that you are not related to this case? Sorry, but we're not related. What? Just kidding. You asked that question with such a serious look on your face that I couldn't help but... Miss Yu, I ask that you please tell me the truth. Alright, I'll tell you everything I know. Why did Mr. Kochin want to meet with you earlier? Actually, he came to watch the trial. Apparently, he only found out that I was the defense lawyer on this case after he arrived. He figured he should say hi and one other thing. Looks like you couldn't resolve anything this time either. Too bad. What's that supposed to mean? Fine, really. I gave him a good slap across the face. The way she talks about slapping him as she laughs away is kind of creepy. But it was just as Mr. Bad said. He's not related to the double murder. I asked around and people in the gallery claimed that he was in the seat the entire time. Talk about cruel fate. As you guessed, the one who reported the smuggling activities of the Amano group was my sister CCU, as I thought. And she was killed right before she was to testify at the impending trial by Manny Kochin. But because he was tried once and was acquitted, he gets to live out the rest of his cushy life completely carefree. All because of a lack of evidence. No, I heard that the evidence to convict him did exist. What? I heard it from Mr. Faraday himself after Mr. Cochin's trial was over. Apparently, a man in black made off with the most important piece of evidence. Then the evidence had been tampered with. Isn't it just like a criminal to do something like that? A smuggling ring being run out of the Mono Group by one of its secretaries. They bailed Mr. Cochin out. Turns out they were in league with each other all along. How big was the smuggling ring? Was it a large operation? I don't really know, which is why I wanted to become the lead defense on this case that people are calling the second KGA incident. But I haven't learned anything new at all. I was probably expecting too much, I know. I mean, you think this case has nothing to do with the smuggling ring? I don't know what to think. Well, this is about all I know. Sorry. Guess I wasn't much help, huh? That's not true. I'm sorry I made you recall such a painful time in your life. Ezra, you really are too serious for your own good. You really need to learn to relax. We wouldn't want you to die of stress, would we? Thank you for the advice, but there's no need to worry. I work in my own way, and I will catch this criminal in my own way as well. You see. Look at you with your game face on, ready to go. I'm making no such face. Did you know? Laughter is the best medicine, Edgeworth. Don't you get tired of making such a serious face all the time. I'm charged with making sure that all the criminals of this world are found guilty. I have no need for laughter. There you go, making that face again. Oh well, I've got to get going. I still have a few loose ends I need to tie up. A KGA incident and this murder investigation. It is my belief that these two cases are related to each other somehow. Plus that Detective Gumshoe. It's obvious he's lying, even though the lie is hurting his chances. Clearly, this case is far from over. But whether or not the detective is the murderer can certainly be determined once I've completed my perfect investigation. Mr. Von Karma, I swear to uphold your honorable name, or my name isn't Miles Edgeworth. Whew, nearly 2 hours of this. All right, that's it. Yeah, it took longer than I thought it would. Thought it'd be lasting them, but maybe like an hour and a half. But anyway, I'll be streaming on Sunday because I've got to make sure I put in some videos because I ain't gonna be streaming on Monday. At least put in a couple of videos. But then I got done a couple of reviews. You know, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Gotta get some stuff out because I'm not gonna be probably because depending on when, because matter of fact, I think because probably have to put out my review of Agatha All Along season 1 probably Friday after Halloween, because it's probably not going to air until, because it's not going to air until Halloween, but we'll see when what time it airs. Probably early in the morning on Thursday morning. So if that's the case, try to get the review out earlier that day before I head out. But in any case, I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a pleasant weekend.